Hey YouTube, it's Seth here, and today I'm bringing you a new video which is the top 5 best builds in Adventure Quest at this moment in time. Now, starting off, there's a few criteria that these builds need to satisfy, which is, speed in battle, the damage output, equipment that you need, something, or, token or premium package equipment, gameplay, all that stuff. And disclaimer, these are my views, you don't necessarily have to agree with them. Well, you kind of do because this is my video. So starting off with number 5, we've got Annihilator Hybrids, ones who trade in their endurance for maximizing their damage. Now, at some point in time, we've all used a hybrid build or thought about using it because, let's face it, this build is popular and for a good reason. It's really fun to use, and you can, use spells or just whack things with swords and weapons, and it all works out just as well. This was in fact, this was the first build I ever used in Adventure Quest. It was something like a hybrid, and it was a Necromancer hybrid. Regardless, it has great damage, and in case you're a player who's casual, who doesn't really go in depth into maximizing their equipment, this is the build for you. You don't necessarily have to be incredibly well versed in the game mechanics to really use this build effectively, because it's as strong as you want it to be. It can beat monsters, it can beat bosses. Even if you don't have endurance, you can still spell spam and still kill monsters inside 2 turns, and it's great for warring too. The only downside is sometimes there's wastage of resources, like in case you use just your weapons to attack, you waste your mana. Likewise, if you use your mana only, you miss out on your weapon damage. So it's one or the other, but you can't have both at the same time, which is a shame unless you pick up something like the Conjo Shadow Templar. So what I'm saying is, you don't need tokens or GGB items to effectively use this build. All the items that you need are in-game and available for gold. In fact, this is one of the best builds in case you want to farm as well. Coming to number 4, you've got the Beast Warriors and Rangers. Now, in theory, they have the best damage output in game because, fully offensive armor plus guests plus pets. So you're essentially dealing 2 times the damage of a regular warrior. So the only downside is you have a lot of animation time, which can be a bother to a few. But the trade-off is you deal a shit ton of damage, and you have access to some of the best effects in the game that you can get only via pets. Now, one of the reasons this build isn't placed higher on this list is because most of these pets, or guests for that matter, are rare, and we don't know whether or not they'll ever come back. So that's one thing that's pulling this down. I mean, sure, there are pets that are available in the game which you can use, but it won't be as effective without, say, something like the Fruitcake Zards or the LGBT dinosaur that came out of the new last year's Frostwall set. Regardless, it's a great build and something that you should try out in case you want to, use pets and still deal a shit ton of damage. Now, coming to number 3. This is sort of a tie, I suppose, between PureWarriors and Pure Rangers, and you can even throw in booster pets if you want to. Now, why these builds are so high? Because they have the most consistent damage in the game, and it's consistently high at that. Not to mention, you can use armor skills and weapon-based skills using booster pets, and they're absolute nukes. In fact, this is currently my favorite build in the entire game, and it's what I use on my main Seth. That aside, you don't need a lot of tokens to make it good. You have all the armors that you need in game, although yes, in case you want to be elite or something, I suppose you can get a few package items, but you don't necessarily have to do that, because this build is great on its own. It's got high endurance, it's almost unkillable at times if you play it well, and because of the high endurance, you can even use CIT and mash things to mashed potatoes if you want to. Coming to number 2 and number 1. Now this is a tie again, because I don't know which one of these is personally better, although I do favor Beast Mage, although it is essentially the Poe Mage with the exception that it's got charisma instead of endurance. And both have their pros and cons, but they're essentially the same build. And if you think hybrids are versatile, Poe Mages and Beast Mages are, missed the most versatile build in the game. You can play defensive, offensive, and you don't even have to change your armors. If you're low on HP, just use a healing guest to get your HP up. If you want to use damage, switch to Poes and, beat the shit out of the enemy, or you can use effects from various weapons, guests or pets. It's really up to you. One of the weak points about this build, well, I wouldn't exactly consider it weak, is that you've only got 8 slots for everything, so you can't do whatever this build is capable of. So you have to make a few sacrifices depending on what kind of playstyle you employ while playing the game. Like, if you want to use damage, you have to forego, effect-based spells or something. If you want to use spells, you have to lose out on guests, and if you use guests, you have to miss out on a few spells. So it's got a few weaknesses, and it's by no means perfect, but in terms of overall damage capabilities, in terms of boss killing ability, I think this is the best build in game, and it's kind of sad to admit it, but it's actually true. That being said, I do personally use a Polala Mage build myself, which is my secondary, as most of you might know, say in Hydra. But here's the thing, no build in Adventure Quest history, I think, has ever been as broken and, completely dominant. Well, I think mages have been dominant mostly, and lucky beast mages especially. But in terms of damage, no build has ever matched the capabilities of this one. Sure, it has its shortcomings, because of the spell slots, the fact that you do need premium equipment to get the best out of it, among other things, but even if you consider all of that, when you consider nukes that you fire off using your armor skills, no build can match that, which is, really saying something. Not to mention, in case you want to, if you want to be, the very best, I suppose, if you have that sort of complex, this is the build for you. Although it's a bit of a gamble because, getting Polaris is really difficult. Then again, I suppose it's worth it, even though it's really hard to say that. It is worth it because the damage is just absolutely brilliant. Now coming to the last segment, I suppose. These builds are my opinion, they're the best around. That's not to say others are bad, especially defensive ones, because they have a few problems ranging from equipment gaps all the way to the fact that you don't have no drop bows or bows technically, so that's a problem. And other than that, I suppose other builds like they do come close, but they're not as good as these, at least in terms of people who use them and the like. Then again, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, regardless of the shitty commentary. Thanks for watching, and I will be back soon with the Void Challenge video this coming weekend. Cheers, and thanks for watching.